Picture this. It's 9:37 p.m. A man is sitting alone in his parked car right outside his own home. The living room lights are still on. Through the window, he can see his partner moving around, folding laundry, rinsing a glass, checking her phone. His hand is on the door handle, but he doesn't open it. He leans his head back against the seat, closes his eyes, and lets out that quiet, tired sigh that never appears in any argument. His phone lights up. Group chats. A silly meme. A notification from some app. For a few seconds, he stares at the glow of the screen instead of the glow of his home. Out there in his phone, nobody is testing him. Nobody is asking, "Why didn't you?" So what does that mean? Do you even care? Out there, he's not on trial. Inside the house, his partner glances at the same clock. She wonders why he's always late coming in now. She remembers how he used to rush home, how he used to text, "On my way, can't wait to see you." Now, he moves like someone walking into a performance review he's already failed. There was a time when one goodnight message from him could make her whole day. Now, they can spend a whole day together and it feels like nothing really connected. Here's the brutal truth that many couples quietly live with. More and more men are choosing inner peace over proving their worth in love. Not because they're heartless. Not because they're naturally lazy. But because they feel like almost every emotional moment has turned into an exam they can't pass. One wrong word can erase weeks of effort. One forgotten detail becomes proof of a deeper flaw. After a while, silence looks safer than honesty. Comfort looks safer than effort. Distance looks safer than trying again. From the outside, that peace looks like indifference. It looks like a man who has chosen his phone, his games, his friends, or his sleep over romance and growth. From the inside, it's often something very different. A tired person thinking, "No matter what I do, it's never enough. So why keep pushing so hard, just to be told I failed again?" If we zoomed out and watched this couple over a few months, we wouldn't just see a distant man and a demanding woman. We'd see a pattern, a loop, a quiet emotional war where no one declared a fight, but both are permanently on defense. One person feels insecure or unloved, so they throw out a test without calling it a test. A sharp little comment, a pointed question, a complaint wrapped in a joke. "Nice that you have time for your friends." "Oh, you finally remembered I exist. I guess work is your real priority." In their mind, they're checking, "Am I still important? Are you still choosing me?" But it lands like a pop quiz with no right answer. On the other side, he doesn't hear, "I'm scared." He hears, "You're failing." Maybe his childhood was full of criticism. "Why did you only get this grade? Why can't you be more like your brother? Why did you do it wrong again?" When his partner uses the same tone, even about small things, his body reacts as if he's back at that blackboard being shamed. His instinct is not to open up and explain. His instinct is to protect himself. She senses something is wrong and tries to get a reaction by pointing out what's missing. He feels examined and judged, and moves into defense mode. Short answers, jokes to deflect, staring at a screen, retreating into hobbies. The more he withdraws into peace, the more she feels unloved and tests harder. The more she tests, the more he shuts down. Round and round they go. This isn't happening because one side is simply a bad person. A lot of it is old wiring. Many men were raised with a very narrow emotional language. Be strong, don't complain, fix things, succeed. When they failed, they were criticized, not comforted. They learned that being emotionally honest is risky, that mistakes lead to shame, and that the safest strategy is to look calm even when chaos is roaring inside. Many women, on the other hand, were raised to be emotionally alert. They learned to scan for mood changes, to notice silence, to sense when connection was slipping. Inconsistency in love was dangerous, so they learned to keep asking, keep checking, keep bringing things up. In adult relationships, when they feel distance, their system goes on high alert. They repeat questions, push for reassurance, raise the same topic again and again, not because they enjoy conflict, but because being ignored feels worse than being in a fight. Add defense mechanisms and the picture gets sharper. He uses humor as armor, turning everything into a joke so he doesn't have to show how much it stung. He acts indifferent, because if he doesn't look like he cares, maybe it won't hurt as much when he's criticized. She uses sarcasm to hide how vulnerable she feels, telling herself, if I make fun first, it will hurt less if he pulls away. She over-explains because silence feels like death, while for him silence feels like safety. Underneath, they're speaking different emotional languages. When she brings up the same issue again, her message is, this still hurts and I still care. What he hears is, you're still not good enough. Everything you did doesn't count. When he goes quiet, his message is, I'm overwhelmed and scared to say something that makes it worse. What she hears is, you don't care enough to try. You've checked out. From her side, that story of him being cold can feel very true. She sees inconsistency, broken promises, a lack of initiative in romance or emotional work, and it genuinely hurts. From his side, his story also feels true. He sees all the invisible things he does, working, paying bills, fixing problems, staying when it's hard, and feels like none of it earns him any credit. He stops handing in emotional homework because every attempt comes back covered in red ink. Slowly, the relationship turns into a courtroom with no judge but constant evidence. Who texted first? Who apologized last? Who did more this week? The emotional bank account is overdrawn, and even deposits are questioned. In that climate, peace starts to look like the only sane option. Not real peace, just low conflict. Fewer arguments, fewer risks, but also less connection and less honesty. To really understand why so many men choose this route, you have to step into his inner world for a moment. Not the version that jokes at dinner, but the version that lies awake at 1 a.m. thinking, I am one mistake away from being seen as not enough. Not enough as a provider, a partner, a man. That fear rarely starts with his current partner. It's usually older. Maybe he grew up where love was quietly tied to performance. Good marks, no trouble, emotional self-control. If he cried, he was told to toughen up. If he relaxed, he was lazy. If he got angry, he was disrespectful. He learned that being loved meant staying in control and not making emotional noise. Now he's in a relationship where his partner needs presence, empathy, romance, initiative, reassurance. None of that is unreasonable. But inside, each of those needs can feel like another exam in a subject he was never taught properly. When he walks in after a hard day wanting a soft landing and instead hears, we need to talk about what you said on Sunday, his body feels like it's leaving one battlefield and entering another. His tone goes flat. His eyes drift away. Inside he thinks, if I defend myself, it'll explode. If I explain, I'll be misunderstood. If I push back, I'm the bad guy. If I just apologize, I feel fake. So maybe I should say as little as possible. Peace becomes attractive not as deep harmony, but as no one is angry at me right now. A very low bar, but when you're tired enough, you take what you can get. He's hungry for respect too, not in a cartoon ego way, but in a simple, human way. Do my efforts count? When every good thing he does becomes baseline, and every mistake becomes a crisis, he feels like he's working a job where he only ever receives fines, never a paycheck. After enough cycles of you forgot this overshadowing, you did all that, he quietly updates the rule in his head. If nothing I do is enough, I might as well do less and protect my sanity. He's also afraid of being seen as weak or useless. When he does open up a little about stress or doubt, part of him is watching, will this be thrown back at me later? If he's ever heard, other husbands manage, why can't you? Or real men don't complain, that lodged inside him like a splinter. Next time he feels overwhelmed, instead of saying, I'm drowning, he shrugs and says, I'm fine, then disappears into quiet numbing. Scrolling, gaming, videos, staying late at work. On the outside, it looks like he doesn't care. Inside, he's thinking, at least this doesn't judge me. There's often a fear of control too. Men who grew up with controlling parents can be extremely sensitive to any tone that sounds like orders. When she says, why did you do it like that? I told you already, she might be trying to streamline things. His body hears, you're incompetent, you can't be trusted. He doesn't say, that makes me feel small. He just lowers his emotional participation. He'll maybe do the task, but his heart leaves the room. In everyday life, this shows up in small scenes. Two people on the same couch, each on their phone. She wonders why he doesn't reach for her or ask deeper questions. He feels the weight of her disappointment and looks at his screen because he's convinced that talking will only end in blame. Or a dinner where she raises big topics. Moving, money, kids, therapy. He feels a wave of pressure, anxiety about failing, and instead of saying, "This scares me," he makes a joke or shuts down. She reads it as indifference. He was actually flooded with fear. And yet, many of these men still love deeply. They still care about their partner, still want to make her happy, still dream of a relationship that feels like a safe harbor. But the mix of constant tests, mixed signals, and old shame wires them to associate emotional effort with danger. So they downgrade their hopes. No shouting, no drama, no tears becomes the main goal. Low conflict, even if that means low connection. Now, let's sit in the middle and add subtitles to the behaviors that hurt the most. When he goes quiet after you bring up something sensitive, it's easy to translate his silence as, he doesn't care. In your language, talking equals caring. If you're still fighting, you're still in it. Silence feels like abandonment. In his language, silence often means, I'm scared of saying the wrong thing and making it worse. I need time to think, but I don't know how to ask for it without being attacked. What looks like coldness can actually be fear wearing a calm mask. When she brings up the same issue again, many men hear, you enjoy complaining. You never let anything go. In his mind, the case was closed. In her language, repetition usually means, this wound never healed. The last talk didn't really reach me, so my system keeps circling it, hoping one day you'll truly see it. It's not that she loves conflict, she just doesn't know how to ignore pain without going numb. When he chooses his phone or his games instead of a deep talk, it's natural to feel, I'm less important than a screen. That hurts. But often, his choice is less about preferring pixels to his partner and more about choosing a space where he isn't being graded. Emotional conversations feel like driving in a storm with bad brakes. Scrolling feels like parking in a dark but predictable garage. When she tests him with sarcasm, wow, you remembered I'm here, it stings as disrespect. But underneath, it often means, I miss you and I feel invisible, but I'm scared to say that directly. Sarcasm is the armor she uses so she doesn't feel completely exposed. When he says, not now, I don't want to talk about this, she hears, you and your feelings don't matter. For her, if something matters, you stay and talk until you reach some resolution. For him, asking for a pause can be the best way he knows to avoid saying something he can't take back. The problem is that he rarely explains this clearly, so it just looks like another closed door. When she gets emotional, tears, a raised voice, intense words, many men see only attack. Here we go again. In her inner language, what's happening is, I've held this in too long. I don't feel safe or understood. My body is talking because my calm words didn't work. Not every tear is manipulation. Often, it's overload. Now add mixed signals. She says, I want you to open up, but when he finally admits he's scared about money or lost in his career, her own fear explodes. If he doesn't know what he's doing, are we safe? That fear can come out as criticism. Why don't you have a plan? Other men your age, he learns, when I show weakness, I'm punished, and pulls back again. He says, I just want a peaceful relationship, but then avoids hard conversations, never sets boundaries, never initiates emotional repair. She hears, I want comfort without growth. I want you to carry the emotional load so I can stay comfortable. He is chasing the absence of conflict. She is chasing the presence of connection. Same word, peace. Two different meanings. Here's where the harsh truths come in. If you keep turning your relationship into a constant exam, you will train the other person to stop showing up as a student. Many women comment on his tone, his timing, his effort, his wording, his spending, his reactions. Not because they're cruel, but because they're scared nothing will change if they stay quiet. But if nearly every interaction carries a little, why didn't you, why don't you ever? It slowly erodes his sense of being fundamentally accepted. A man who feels examined all the time does not usually become more romantic and playful. He becomes careful, minimal, and tired. On the other side, many men hide behind peace when what they're actually practicing is emotional laziness. There's a big difference between "I need a break so I don't say something harmful" and spending years in low-effort mode, avoiding any emotional depth and calling that keeping things calm. Being non-abusive is not the same as being present. Avoiding fights is not the same as building intimacy. If your version of peace is "no one's yelling and I can do what I want," you're not in a partnership, you're in quiet co-living. Then there's scorekeeping, the slow form of revenge that both sides use. You might not scream, but you keep a ledger: who apologized last, who initiated intimacy, who did more chores, who sacrificed more. Every forgotten text, every missed hug, every late arrival goes on the list. When the next conflict comes, you empty the file. You never remember that time. Scorekeeping is a way to not feel crazy, to prove you're right. But it kills generosity, turns every act of love into a risk. If I give more, I'll just fall further behind. Both sides also use love as a bargaining chip. He withdraws affection until she's less dramatic. She withholds warmth or intimacy until he proves himself. You end up with two people waiting for the other to move first. The relationship freezes. Caring more feels like losing. Underneath all of this is fear and shame. He fears giving more and being taken for granted. She fears giving more and confirming the old story that she always has to overfunction to be loved. And below even that, there's another hard truth. If you never confront your own avoidance, you will keep blaming the relationship for an emptiness that actually belongs to your unresolved self. So what now? How do you move from fake peace and constant tests to something better? One small but powerful shift is moving from exam mode to curious mode. When you feel the urge to test your partner, pause and ask, what am I actually feeling that I'm scared to say directly? Maybe it's, I miss you, I felt invisible, or I'm scared I don't matter to you. Try one simple, honest sentence instead of a trap. You don't have to deliver a perfect speech. Often, one real line changes the tone of an entire conversation. A simple daily or near-daily check-in can help too. 10 to 15 minutes, no phones, at roughly the same time. Ask each other, what's one thing on your mind today? And, is there anything you need from me this week? That's it. It might feel awkward at first, but it builds the habit of turning towards each other before resentment hardens. Men can practice asking for space without breaking connection. I care about this, but I'm getting defensive. Can we take 20 minutes and then come back? I promise I'll return. Saying you'll come back, and actually coming back, teaches her that your pause is about regulation, not abandonment. Women can shift from character attacks to behavior plus impact. Not, you don't care about me, but when you look at your phone the whole time I'm talking, I feel unimportant. Same pain, less poison. Both can use the story I'm telling myself is sentences. The story I'm telling myself is that you'd rather be anywhere else than with me. Or, the story I'm telling myself is that nothing I do ever counts. That phrase turns your reaction from a verdict into an invitation. It opens a door instead of throwing a stone. You can redesign how you enter the home too. If the first 5 minutes are always heavy, the person coming home will start to dread stepping inside. Agree on a buffer. For example, the first 10 minutes are just for landing. Greeting, a hug, a quick, "How was your day?" No heavy topics. After that, serious conversations are allowed. It sounds small, but it changes whether home feels like a safe harbor or a second battlefield. On the intimacy side, don't underestimate tiny consistent gestures. A quick touch, a genuine thank you for something small, a short message during the day that simply says, "Thinking of you." For someone who has felt constantly tested, appreciation is like water on dry soil. For someone who has felt ignored, small sparks of attention keep hope alive. Once in a while, have a no fixing, just listening talk. One person shares, the other listens and reflects back what they heard, without defending. Then swap. The goal isn't to solve anything in that moment, just to understand. It's uncomfortable for both sides at first, but it reminds you that you're not enemies. You're two humans trying not to feel alone. Sometimes, you'll need outside help, a therapist, a wise older couple, or even resources that give you shared language. That's not a sign you're hopeless. It's a sign you're tired of repeating the same fight in different costumes. Most of us walked into love with no real manual. We brought what we saw, what we feared, and what we wished for. That man in the car outside his house, delaying going in because he's bracing for another exam. He's not automatically a villain. He's a boy who learned to armor up and call it being chill. The woman pacing in the kitchen, rehearsing her lines, she's not automatically a monster. She's a girl who learned that if she doesn't fight for connection, it disappears. Patterns are strong, but they're not sacred. You can outgrow fake peace. You can retire from constant testing. Real peace in a relationship isn't the absence of raised voices. It's the presence of safety. Safety to say, I'm scared I'm not enough, or I'm lonely, without being mocked or dismissed. Safety to ask for space without threatening to leave, and to ask for closeness without being called too much. If you heard yourself in the man who is tired of proving his worth, maybe your next step isn't to withdraw even deeper. Maybe it's to stay in one hard conversation a few minutes longer and say one honest sentence about what's really going on inside. If you heard yourself in the partner who tests and keeps score, maybe your next step isn't another sharp comment, but one vulnerable line, I miss you. I'm scared we're drifting. No one gave you a perfect manual. In many ways, you're just two wounded kids trying to love from inside adult bodies. But if you're both willing to learn each other's emotional language, you don't have to keep living on trial. You can build a life where being loved doesn't mean passing exams, and protecting your peace doesn't mean shutting your partner out. And if you heard your story in this, maybe this is your invitation to stop fighting alone inside your own head and start speaking honestly. Clearly, gently, even if your voice shakes. The goal is not to prove your worth to each other. It's to build a connection where neither of you has to live as if one wrong move will make you unlovable.